I didn't even know Akira Kurosawa's High and Low existed until about a month ago when I heard that Spike Lee and Denzel Washington were collaborating on a remake. I found that interesting, collaborating on a remake for a movie I had never heard of before. Of course, it was Kurosawa, so it wasn't difficult to track down a copy. And from there, I popped it into the Blu ray player and was off to the races. By then, I had some idea of the premise, and what I saw was every bit as good as I could have hoped for. Now, the Japanese translation for this film is technically Tengoku to Jigoku, meaning heaven and hell, which is a far more appropriate title. The film is based on an old, hard boiled crime novel from Ed McBain called King's Ransom. It tells the story of a middle aged industrialist named Gondo, played by Toshiro Mifune. For 30 years, Gondo has been working for the same shoe company and is now in a position to become a majority shareholder. Just as he's about to make that move, he becomes the target of a kidnapper who believes he's stolen Gondo's small son, Jun, and wants a ruinous amount of ransom for him. What he's actually done, though, is taken Shinichi, the son of Gondo's limousine driver, his little son's best friend. When the bastard discovers his mistake, he insists on the same ransom, leading to the moral dilemma of the story. Where do Gondo's responsibilities lie? With his business and being able to provide for his family, or with saving the life of a child that is not his? The film is based in the 1960s post war Japan, and from watching the way it plays out, I believe Kurosawa had a great deal of skepticism when it came to his country's sudden rapid industrialization, as well as the rise of capitalism in the wake of this new world. Gondo is forced to directly confront his own values and resolve whether the life of a wealthy man's son is worth as much as a working man's child. Heaven and Hell, and I'm going to be calling it that for the remainder of this video, is more than just a crime drama or a police procedural. It forces the viewer to wonder if the financial gap that occurs between classes of people can breed legitimate resentments and even rationalize wrongdoing, even from the perspective of the kidnapper, who is as evil as they come. There is a human story there that is not to be ignored. To be clear, Gondo is not some psychopathic executive you'd see in a satire crushing everyone in his path for the gratification of his own narcissistic whims. He's a moral businessman who wants to create a quality product customers will find affordable and reliable and build his reputation from that. He's worked his way up from the bottom over the course of 3 decades and is now on the verge of being able to implement and lead this ethical vision for the future. He's a good husband and a father, and as an example of how firmly his feet are planted on the ground, he even keeps his old shoe repair kit close by in case he needs it. What Gondo can't see coming is pure spite and malice aimed at him from strangers he's never met. He can understand business rivalry and how the creditors are always ready to pounce. What he cannot understand is someone wanting to ruin someone else and even murder a child because they're poor. I won't go through the entire film, but you cannot review this without some analysis of the kidnapper Takeuchi. You don't see him for most of the film, and in truth, there's no real dialogue from him until the final scene where Gondo confronts him in prison. He's no arch criminal, and I was actually shocked to find out he was a medical student who probably had a promising career. It begged the question, what went wrong? Takeuchi lives in an open air hovel, which is just a very small part of a larger slum. It's infested with crime, drugs, and every type of decay Kurosawa could think of. This villain, and he is a villain from the perspective of his own entrenched disgust and envy, wants to gather all that pain and frustration and throw it like so much monkey shit at the wealthiest person he can lay eyes on. He looks up from his tin shack, sees Gondo's air conditioned house at the top of the hill. From the view of the valley he spends his days stewing in, and the connection is made. I don't even know that he wants the money. It seems to be far more important to hurt the total stranger who lives atop that hill he can see every day from his shanty. Kurosawa seemed to want to reflect the reality not just of the wealthy man who was the victim of a terrible crime, he also wanted to give solid footing to a kidnapper that lived in a three tatami summer hell who is plotting revenge on a stranger who doesn't know he exists. Can he succeed in financially ruining Gondo? And if he does, will that bring him down to the same level as a man who steals children for money? To be clear, Gondo does pay the ransom and Shinichi is freed. Consequently, he does lose his position in the company and his creditors swiftly move in. The police capture Takeuchi and recover most of the money, but it's too late. His plans to become majority shareholder have leaked. His trusted protege betrays him, and all of Gondo's business fears become a reality. He also loses his home, and he and his family are forced to start over from scratch. However, the life of a small boy is saved. Gondo keeps his moral compass. He takes the recovered funds and buys a smaller company and moves forward. Takeuchi is arrested and will face the death penalty for kidnapping and other murders he committed in the process of evading police. In a 1963 interview with the Japanese magazine Kinema Hunpo, Kurosawa said, "The view from the top of the hill and the view from the bottom are entirely different, but both are real. I wanted to show that reality." In that sense, Kurosawa succeeded. Where he fell short was in an ambiguous condemnation of Takeuchi. Hate, envy, and an almost Luciferian pride twisted Takeuchi into a man who stole and threatened to murder for money. Life isn't fair, but is there a parallel between young Takeuchi and the Gondo from 30 years ago, carrying a new shoe repair kit, optimistic about the future even while struggling? I think there is. That begs this final question. If the villain is a darker mirror image of the industrialist in his youth, what causes one man to be rooted in envy and not the other?